Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the Appraiser Coach Podcast. My name is Dustin Harris. I do sound like I'm in a tin can. I apologize for that right up front. I will just tell you, the Appraisal Summit is coming up this week. I took my microphone home so that I could put it on a plane and ship it down to Las Vegas, and completely forgot that I had some interviews today. So we're dealing with the laptop microphone today, so I apologize for that. I think you should be able to understand everything at least, but not the cool microphone that usually sits on this lovely arm. As you can see, it's gone Johnson. So anyway, if you can put up with that, I think we've got a great show for you today. Very interesting show, if you ask me, and I can't wait to introduce you to a guest that I will be having on here in a few minutes. But first, I want to remind you, of course, that we are sponsored by Working RE magazine. Speaking of the summit, I will see the individuals at Working RE this week and be able to chat with them a little bit about the direction that they are going. But you can check them out by going to workingre.com. Again, that's workingre.com. We are sponsored by Datamaster. Datamaster, I obviously will see this week as well. They're in the process of rolling out Datamaster 2.0, if you will. And I'll tell you, folks, if you want to save 30 to 60 minutes per report, you need to check out Datamaster. Go to datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. Again, it's datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. And finally, we are sponsored by Alamode software. Alamode is the software that I use for my appraisal work. It's the software I've used for over 20 years. There's a reason I use Alamode. There's a reason you should be using Alamode. Go to alamode.com or 800-ALAMODE and find out why they are the leader in the software industry for appraisers. Well, folks, I have a great individual on. Actually been on the show before, Mr. Jerin Harper. Welcome back to the program, Jerin.
Good to be back, Coach.
You know, Jerin came on with me clear back in episode 147, and it was a great episode. Please go back and listen, get to know Jerin a little bit better. He has been an appraiser in the Vancouver, Washington area for, about 8 years, and he reached out to me recently with a question that I think was super interesting, that I think that appraisers are dealing with a lot. And Jerin, I'm just going to let you set that up by kind of, recapping the email that you sent to me here a few weeks ago.
Well, first, I don't mean to correct you on your own show, but I haven't been in this area for 8 years, if there's any confusion there. I had some stops in Seattle and Spokane, but Gotcha. Okay, so you've been an appraiser for about 8 years.
Yeah, in your current area for how long?
Oh, just close to 3 years, a little over 2.
Oh, okay. So you're starting to get geographic competency then.
I guess that's a thing, right?
Right on. Yeah, I guess. Okay, so Jerin, you reached out to me with an interesting topic recently that I deemed worthy of a show, simply because I think appraisers are dealing, some appraisers at least, really all of us deal with this on some level, but tell me a little bit about the email you sent me.
Yeah, what prompted me to send you an email was I was getting caught up on some of your podcasts, and I was thinking to myself just about show topics that I would like to hear and things that I run into. And in my email, I was just reaching out to you as a suggestion for a show topic, and I was giving you a couple of examples of problems I ran into, primarily being having a real estate broker's license and an appraiser. So that's what happened. I sent you an email and you invited me on the show, and looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah, me too, because I think, I remember years ago, in fact, it was actually my first USPAP class. By the way, my first USPAP class was a complete disaster for me. I sat in a room with about 30 to 40 other appraisers who were all at least twice my age, if not more. Who had taken USPAP a bazillion times. I was the only new guy in there, and they basically spent 2 days talking about funny anecdotal stories, and once in a while bringing up this USPAP thing, which I had no idea, what it even was. And then here I'm supposed to take a test after, a bunch of guys had just reminisced about stories and done no study at all regarding this. But I'm already getting off in the weeds, Jerin, but the point is in that class, I do remember this one thing. I do remember my my instructor getting up and saying something to the effect of, and again, this was years ago, so I may be misremembering, but what sticks with me is this individual had said, some of you are real estate agents or brokers. You need to remember to take off your broker hat and put on your appraiser hat, and when to take off your appraiser hat and put on your broker hat. And I thought, okay, well, it doesn't really apply to me, but it's kind of an interesting thing. And the point he was trying to make is there is this line that may or may not be crossed depending on what type of an advocate or third-party unbiased appraiser you might be acting in. So let's talk first of all, in your opinion, Jerin, what is a conflict of interest?
Well, I guess the prime example of a conflict of interest, especially if you're a broker and appraiser, would be you can't appraise your listing or something that you have a contract out on. That would be, that's the example I can think of that's the most obvious.
Okay, and I think that's fair. I think most of my listeners would say, well, yeah, obviously, that's obviously a situation where you would want to not be involved, because what's the purpose of an appraisal? An appraiser is supposed to complete an appraisal as a third party, unbiased, not swayed one way or the other. And if you're part of that transaction, obviously you've got an issue there. By the way, listeners, if you have not already, go back to episode 242. I had Mr. I call him Dr. Tim Anderson on, who talked to us about personal interests, and he's also talked to us a lot about arm's length transactions. Those two things I think are great to brush up on a regular basis, appraisers, so that we understand what the line is. But okay, other than the obvious, Jerin, you pointed out a very obvious thing. I'm the broker, I'm the agent. Obviously, I can't be the appraiser as well. But you're saying that there's, at least in the email you sent me, there's some other kind of fuzzy, kind of gray areas as well that we need to watch out for.
Yeah, of course. And I guess the question, what is a conflict of interest? It's something that is going to benefit you, I guess, financially or in some other way that you have a hand in, I guess. Okay. The simplest way I could put it. Now, the first example I gave you of something I ran into, and I'm sure there's other appraisers out there who are dual licensed that have broker licenses as well.
And I want to make that clear, just not to interrupt you, but just to make it clear to the listeners that you are an agent, a broker.
Well, and it's a little bit different. The terminology, I guess it's all semantics, but they call agents are called brokers.
Okay.
Even though there's always a designated broker, and then we're just a broker.
Gotcha.
In Oregon, you have a principal broker, and I think they might still call them agents as well. But yeah, it's just semantics basically. So,
but for clarity on your story, you are an appraiser. You're a licensed appraiser, and you're also a licensed agent.
I'm a licensed agent. Yeah, I'm not a designated broker. When you become a designated broker, then you're able to kind of hang your own shingle.
Gotcha.
So starting your own real estate sales company, real estate firm, it's a lot more cumbersome than starting your own appraisal business.
Sure.
There's a lot more that goes into it.
Okay.
So the first example that I had, it involved me being a real estate broker and an appraiser. And what happened was I appraised a house for another agent that she had a listing. Another agent in my office had a listing. And I got an assignment to appraise her listing. Now right away, the best thing to do when you're an agent and an appraiser is you should probably just stay away completely from any transactions that involve other agents in your office.
Okay.
And just to let you know, I'm a full-time appraiser as well. I do a few deals a year on the broker side. And
that's not your primary income.
It's not my primary. I mean, I have my own appraisal business. I'm one of these appraisers that works all day, every day, weekends. I only do
you and I need to talk. You need to be a part of my dream team, friend. We can help you with that.
Yeah, no, I got some things in the works, but I only do a couple real estate deals on the broker side a year. It's usually when they fall into my lap, and I'm not out there chasing leads and things like that. It's worked out well for me. It's created another stream of income for me, and I like doing it. So in this particular example, I And you can see, right, there's the potential for some shenanigans, right? If you're an appraiser that's affiliated with a brokerage, it can
Sure.
have, the optics can be somewhat bad.
If nothing, yeah, if nothing, exactly. Even if there was no ill intent, at least the
Right.
accusations might have a little merit. At least people would understand why there might be accusations in that case.
Of course. Now, that being said, I still think it's fine to take an assignment that involves an agent from your office. I think it's best to disclose that relationship with the brokerage or the agent or anything like that. Obviously, I guess circling back, the most obvious concern, I think, I guess the bad optics that I mentioned would be you might not be able to stay unbiased because you want that deal to get done for the benefit of your brokerage or that agent.
But I want to make it clear so that if anybody misunderstands here, you're talking about a situation where you have no financial interest in this transaction. You simply are part of a bigger ABC Realty, if you will, that employs both you and another agent that happens to be involved in the deal.
Correct. And it's not like I had any special relationship with that agent. I met her once. We had a neutral relationship. It wasn't adverse or beneficial, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's my UAD reference.
Let's call it a neutral, right?
It was a neutral relationship.
Yeah.
And so the situation I got myself into was, like I said, I took on this assignment. Typically, I try to stay away from him, but whatever. I took on this assignment, and it was kind of the opposite, where I came in below contract on her deal. Well, obviously, she freaked out, I guess, and started making this case. Well, wanted a new appraisal because I had a conflict of interest where I shouldn't have appraised her listing. And my response was, look, you didn't have a problem with it when I called you to set the appointment. You knew about it for 2 weeks. It's just now that it came in low.
Exactly.
You got a problem with it. So based on my experience, I think she's definitely upset that I came in low. So she's doing what agents do, right? They go and they fight it. They try to figure out ways where they can roll the dice and get another appraisal. And like I said, my response was, look, she knew who I was. I called her. She was a listing agent to set the appointment. No problem there. It's just when I came in under contract, there was a problem. And so I guess based on my experience, my advice to any appraiser out there that's also a licensed broker or agent, whatever you want to call them, or is looking to get licensed as an agent and do both, is hang your license at a smaller firm, a small real estate firm. The last brokerage I was at was one of those big legacy brand names.
Sure.
And it just kind of creates more problems. There's too many of those agents running around doing deals, at least in my situation there was. And I found myself, I was really turning down a lot of slam dunk appraisals that were close by to me. And it was maybe upsetting my clients a little bit. And that was just one and so I had to make business decisions. And that's one of the reasons why I took this assignment, because it was just I couldn't pass it up.
Sure. No, I think that's great advice, Jerin. We're dealing with situations that, as you talked about, the optics might be bad. In my particular area, we have several brokerages, if you will. When I say several, I mean dozens, I should say. And there is one that is a monstrosity. I mean, just hundreds and hundreds of agents. And I'll tell you, if you're looking to make a little money as an appraiser and maybe make a little money on the side as an agent, that would not be the brokerage to sign up with if you are worried about ever dealing with other agents from that particular brokerage, because they do a lot of work. So great advice, Jerin. Jerin, that's really good advice. Any other advice before we go to our break?
Yeah, my couple pieces here. One would be to hang your license at a smaller brokerage firm. The last brokerage I was at was one of those larger legacy brand names, and it just complicated things a little bit too much. There's just too many of those brokers running around doing deals, and it makes things a little bit more cumbersome, I guess. And the second piece of advice would be to just make sure you disclose what your role is and what your relationships are.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, this goes back to, we talked about USPAP earlier, and I think this goes back to, harkens back to that, our main goal here as appraisers is that we don't, that we're not misleading in our report. So disclose, disclose, disclose. Great advice, Jerin. Speaking of great advice, let me give the listeners a little bit of great advice, and that is Alamode software. Alamode is the software, of course, that I've been using for over 20 years. They've been in business over 30. By the end of the year, folks, you heard it here first, by the way, by the end of the year, Titan reports will be out, and you'll be able to do all of your appraisal work online. That means you are sitting at a hotel, and all you've got is the Business Center computer. As long as it has internet, and as long as it has a browser, you can work on your appraisal work. That is so exciting. Folks, if you're not part of the Alamode team, you need to jump on right now. Alamode.com is the address to go to, or 800-ALAMODE. Of course, we're sponsored and have been from the very beginning by a great company out of Utah called DataMaster. What is DataMaster? Folks, it's the ability to save 30 to 60 minutes per report. Every report, you can save 30 to 60 minutes. Why? Because all of that hand typing that you do from the assessor sheets, from the MLS sheets, goes directly downloaded into your appraisal software, no matter what software you're using. Folks, check them out. Go to datamasterfreetrial.com/coach, and you can try it for 14 days. Once again, it's datamasterfreetrial.com/coach. Finally, today we are sponsored by Working RE magazine. Working RE is the place that I go to find out what's going on in the appraisal world. Folks, if you care about your profession, if you care about what's going on, if you want to be in the know and find out how you can be involved in what's happening, if you want to see the writing on the wall, I get a lot of questions from people saying, hey, Dustin, where do you think things are going? Where's this appraisal profession going? You know what I say? I don't know. Let's jump on Working RE and find out, because they know. If you want to know what's going on in the appraisal profession, check them out. Go to workingre.com. Once again, it's workingre.com. Welcome back to the program, folks. I have Mr. Jerin Harper for the second time on the Appraiser Coach podcast. By the way, I'm standing now. Those of you who are watching on the Coach Cam, I've been sitting all morning, so that's the joy of having a standing desk. Is I just raise things up a little bit. So hopefully it doesn't change the optics on your side too much. Maybe a little bit more glare off the top of the head. But Jerin, appreciate you joining me today. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. What do you got, the Veridesk over there? We got a couple of those too.
So I actually do the it's called the autonomous desk. They promote themselves as the least expensive motorized standing desk, and I'll tell you, I've had it for about 2 years now. I absolutely love it. It's very sturdy, and it's aesthetically good looking, and it works flawlessly. So I absolutely love it. You're a standing desk guy as well?
Well, we spend so much time looking at our computers that, we've seen the science that sitting will kill you, right? So
Absolutely.
You got to keep it moving.
Perfect. So, Jerin, we're talking today about conflicts of interest, specifically those that kind of wear two hats in the real estate world, those that may be appraisers / agents. And we've talked, obviously, the obvious thing here is a conflict of interest if it happens to be your listing, or if you happen to be on the selling side, the agent on the selling side. That obviously would be a conflict of interest on either one of those. But the question then is raised, is there a conflict of interest when it comes to doing appraisals on a deal that one or the other agent or both might be under the same brokerage, under the same brand name as you? And I think you established it pretty well that officially maybe no, but unofficially, there might be some optics there that would be a bit of a concern. At the very least, Jerin, I think your advice was disclose, 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 right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so let's move on from that topic, if you don't mind, for just a little bit, because in the remaining few minutes that we have, I'd like to talk about some of these other issues that we run into. And again, I want to harken back to a previous episode, 242, with Tim Anderson. If you want more in-depth information from a very smart guy who understands this stuff, I would definitely recommend that episode. Go back and listen to that episode. But so, Jerin, let's talk a little bit about some other conflicts of interest that might come up. Not necessarily between a real estate agent and an appraiser, who might be the same person, by the way. But let's talk about some other conflicts of interest that we might deal with. For example, your opinion, Jerin. You are asked to appraise a property that is in your neighborhood, your subdivision. Is that a conflict of interest?
I I think it's tough. I think you might want to stay away from your neighbors that you know or that you have a relationship with. But yeah, it's tough. Like, where do you draw the line? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, the argument here would be, well, if there's anybody that has geographic competency, if that's even a thing, right?
Yeah.
If anybody's got geographic competency, boy, by hell, ought to be the guy that lives in the neighborhood, right?
Well, yeah, and then I mean that's how you're assigned your work, right? It's based on your location.
There you go.
I mean, for the
Yeah,
most
there you
part.
go.
Yeah.
So how close is too close? I mean, is 2 streets away okay? How about how about in the same cul-de-sac?
Well, exactly. I mean, I personally would probably say, because you could make the case that you have I guess, a financial interest in things that are houses next door to you or right on your street or right there.
Right. You want the house. Yeah. You want your house being valued as high as possible. And where does that value come from? Well,
Yeah,
sales in the neighborhood. You want those sales to go through, right?
There you go. There you go. Now, in my case, now I'll preface my next example that I'm going to talk about by saying, now I was accused of a conflict of interest for appraising a house that was 2 miles away. I mean, we're talking urban neighborhood here, 2 miles away from a house that I was under contract to buy.
Okay. Well, we got to hear this story. Go for it.
Okay. So here's what happened. I was under contract it was a for sale by owner. Okay. It wasn't listed on the MLS, just direct deal between me and the sellers. Now, I was about 3 or 4 days away from closing on this house. And during that 3 to 4 days, I get an assignment to go appraise a purchase. Okay. It was a house that was, like I said, 2 miles away, urban neighborhood. It's, I mean, kind of a similar house, somewhat similar price range, but for sure, different neighborhoods. Okay. I had already negotiated my purchase price with my seller. Appraisal was done. Inspections were done. Just waiting to close on it.
Okay.
Okay. Now this gets a little complicated down the road, so I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. But so for the house that I was appraising, it was an owner occupied house. I never met the listing agent there or anything. I just met the seller there. The seller and I connected pretty well. He was a general contractor, and we had a good conversation. I probably hung around for 20 minutes after my observation, and we talked about houses and real estate, things like that. Now let me digress just a little bit here and say, if there's another piece of advice I can give to appraisers, or especially the new appraisers out there, is you want to be extremely careful about what you say to people, especially people involved in the transaction, because if they don't like your value, they will.
Amen.
Twist your words and use that against
Jerin, this is something I brought up in a previous episode. I don't have the number in front of me, but I just kind of talked a little bit about, the fear of even saying things like, well, you sure do have a beautiful house here. And I'm famous for saying that. I want to say something nice to the people as I'm walking out the door, right? Well, thanks for showing me through your home. It sure is beautiful. Well, then they come back and say, well, wait a second, you told me it was beautiful, and yet you appraised it for what? It's just silly stuff. You got to be careful what you say.
Oh, and you got to be careful about dropping off little jars of jelly too, right?
That's funny. Yeah.
God forbid you do anything like that.
For those of you who follow the Appraiser Coach podcast, a little inside baseball there. So thanks, Jerin. That was funny.
So, anyways, I'm talking with this contractor who's the seller of the house, and I just mentioned to him that, hey, I'm buying a house that's not too far from here. I'm under contract right now, waiting to close. A couple issues with the siding and this and that. I'm just picking his brain, getting his take. Well, I subsequently came in below contract on that deal, and for whatever reason, he had mentioned to his listing agent that I was buying a house nearby. Well, she took that and ran with it and played the infamous conflict of interest card on me. And this one's pretty good, where she crafted this complaint saying that I had purposely devalued her listing in order to gain leverage in the negotiation of the house that I was currently under contract on.
Wow. Because what, you would use it as a As a
Well,
not an official, comparable, obviously, but
yeah, because and what she said was because by devaluing her listing, it would in turn cause my appraisal to come in low, and the people selling me their property would have no choice but to lower our contract price, thus
wow.
giving me a better deal on the property.
Tell me
Right?
that didn't get legs. Tell me that didn't go anywhere.
Oh, well, of course it didn't. I mean, look, and she went on to say other things like I was basically, and remember, this was a for sale by owner. So she took it a step further and made this case that I was basically manipulating the sellers because they were novices. They didn't have any professional representation, because you need professional representation when you sell a house, right?
Right, of course.
You don't know, nobody knows how to sell anything themselves. and then just made these extraordinary assumptions that she didn't have any details of our transaction, but basically that I was like manipulating the market, right, for my own financial gain, which is, kind of pretty defamatory things to say about my character and
well, I guess, but it also could be a compliment. I mean, Jerin, think about this. I mean, if you're that powerful that you can manipulate a whole real estate market off of one deal, that's pretty darn good, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it was definitely a stretch because it's not like I used the house I was buying in as a comp in her listing or vice versa, right? Her listing wasn't used as a comp in my my appraisal. I mean, they were, like I said, they're different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So again, keep your mouth shut.
Keep your mouth shut. Exactly right. Because what about family members, Jerin? What are your thoughts on that? Conflict of interest?
Well, I would say that you want to stay away from relatives, but how
close is too close? I mean, we're in Idaho here. Everybody's inbred.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, I think it's just, the case can be made. It's easier to make the case. Well, they're related, so of course there's gonna be some funny business going on. I think for like a friend, I think you're kind of all right doing it for a friend because maybe you're the best one to appraise something for your friend. You don't want to have them roll the dice and, I don't know, get a bad appraisal, I guess.
Well, see, but I'd caution, because I think this all comes down. Doesn't this all come down to some judge's interpretation or some state board's interpretation or wherever we might be standing? The bottom line is, listeners, is it might be fine in your mind, and there might be absolutely zero conflict of interest in your head, and as far as your ability to do jobs, but could someone else see it? Again, you use the word. I think the word of the day here, Jerin, is optics. How does it look to someone else?
Right.
So where do we go from here?
Well,
what do we learn from this?
Well, I think I guess it somewhat correlates with the episode you did a while back about no amount of money is worth it. So it's kind of the same concept with you don't want to take one of these goofy assignments, I guess, that they're paying you a bunch of money and it might bite you down the road.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I think the moral of the story in that particular episode that you're referring to is that that was a $1,200 assignment that I walked away from. Why? Only because my spidey senses said walk away from it.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it never would have been a problem, but I think we have to trust our gut. And if we look at a situation and there's money on the table, that can be a temptation. But if our spidey senses say this might not look good, probably best to walk away. At the very least, disclose. Don't ever hide what could be perceived by others as being a conflict of interest. Jerin Harper, thank you for joining us today. This has been very informative and very interesting.
Okay. Sounds good. Hey, just one more thing.
Please.
These examples that I put forth, I think it just proves that people's perception of appraisers is based on the value we give their property. I mean, if they like your value, you're the finest appraiser in all the land, and your appraisal needs to be bronzed and framed and put into a museum somewhere. But if they don't like your value, then it's a miracle that you're even able to dress yourself and find their house.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That's what it all comes down to. In every one of these situations, the problem arose not in the beginning, not when you're setting up the appointment, not when they knew who you were, but after you quote unquote came in low and I use that term in air quotes, that's when they start to attack. Jerin Harper, I appreciate you reaching out to me on email. I appreciate you being willing to be on the program. And folks, any of you who are interested in any topic at all, don't worry, I won't make you be on the program, but reach out to me on the email. Give me some suggestions. I'm always open for suggestions on topics that you would like covered, that other appraisers need to hear about. And I'm always open, of course, as an invitation, not a forcible thing, but as an invitation to have you on the program and just talk about these things. You don't have to be an expert. You just might have a question. Let's have a discussion. Two appraisers talking about any topic whatsoever. Please join me in the future. And thanks for joining me today. We'll catch you next time.